Hey, it's April Fool's Day right here in northern Arizona. Thanks for joining us in Prescott. And we're not going to have any jokes today. I'm sorry, but you know, April Fool's Day, you can have some bad jokes. We don't want those. We're just going to go straight today, okay? Make it easy on you. You don't have to think, are they kidding me? So we're not kidding you. We have Kris Vaughan on with us, certified clinical herbalist and integrative nutrition coach. Lovely to have you on, Kris.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Well, we were just talking breakfast and, you know, what's good for breakfast and what we, you know, want to eat and what we may do to, you know, but food is everything to us. Obviously, without food, we don't survive.
Right.
But what if you are allergic to some foods or if you have food intolerance?
It's a big problem, and a lot of people don't even realize that they might have a food intolerance because some of the symptoms of food intolerances really mimic a wide variety of other health conditions. So a lot of times it's really difficult for your doctor to even pick out that that's what's happening. So, you know, you may have headaches or skin rashes or fatigue or insomnia, achy joints, sore muscles, things like that. So it's really
vague.
vague.
Eating something that isn't agreeing with you.
Right, right.
Isn't that amazing? I know I've heard of diseases and things, like some multiple sclerosis sometimes, is, you know, different things like that. So, and then you change the way, well, of course, gout, a lot of things are caused by food problems.
Right.
But if you eat the same thing and let's say you don't know that you are allergic to it or you have an intolerance to it and you just keep eating it and eating it, can this make you sick over a long time?
It can, and what happens is our gut, the intestines, where we absorb all of our food, is a really fascinating tool, okay? So it's like a net, and it's very closely woven. And so there are spaces where we absorb nutrients through, but when we are continually bombarding our gut with foods that we are intolerant to, it becomes permeable, or what you call leaky gut. And so that net begins to open up and the holes get larger, and now food particles pass through where they were never intended to pass through. And they get into the bloodstream, and the immune system flares up and goes on attack because it immediately recognizes that there's something there that shouldn't be. Now, even if what you're eating is healthy food, if it's not healthy for you, we have this situation that happens. And then our immune system is on attack. We experience inflammation, which then causes the achy joints and the headaches and the fatigue and all those things that I mentioned earlier. And over a long period of time, we can then move into an autoimmune type of a condition. So, you know, we tend to look at our food as nothing to worry about. You know, and we hear you are what you eat, but it really does matter what we eat and what we absorb into our system.
Sometimes you think you're eating well,
right?
And you may be eating well for someone else,
right.
But for you, you might be allergic to it. How in the world do you find out if you have something that you're eating that is not agreeing with you?
Well, there are a variety of tests that you can have done through your doctor. You can have blood tests done. There are saliva tests that will tell you what foods you may be intolerant to. And there's a difference between an allergy and an intolerance. So we can have a blood test that will only look for an allergy, and we can be negative, but we can still be intolerant, which would be picked up on like a saliva test or something like that. And the best way, the cheapest way to find out is to do an elimination diet. And so I usually will walk my clients through a 4-week elimination process where we remove from the diet the most common food allergens, and they chart any symptoms that go away. And then we begin to add those foods back in slowly and watch for things to pop back up. And if something negative pops up, we know that that's a food we should keep out of our diet.
That's fascinating. Well, there's a big movement for gluten-free. And, you know, if you were, for instance, intolerant to gluten, it's in everything we eat.
It's in most everything, yeah. And I have lived gluten-free for about 3 years now, almost 4. And it was really life-changing. Now, there are a lot of people who can eat gluten and it doesn't cause an issue. But for those that do, you know, I lived a lot of years with symptoms that, you know, the doctors just said, well, you're just gonna have to live with it. You know, I had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and migraine headaches and insomnia. I slept 4 hours a night, and irritable bowel syndrome, and it was a laundry list of things that I suffered with. And I finally decided to go gluten-free just to try it out, because I figured can't possibly feel any worse than I feel right now, right? And for me, within 3 days, my whole life had changed. So food really impacts how we live and how our body is functioning. And for some people, it can be as dramatic as mine was. You know, 95% of what was wrong with me is now gone.
That is phenomenal.
So it's really a big deal.
Well, and what are the most common ones? I guess gluten is one of the most common food intolerances?
Your four most common are gluten, corn, dairy, and soy, which are in most of our packaged and processed foods.
I see.
So it's when we're eating a lot of packaged processed foods, fast foods, we're getting these things in what we eat. And so going to more of a whole food diet, a plant-based diet, cooking at home, that's the biggest thing, is we have to, as a society, get back to cooking our own food at home from scratch.
Because then you're not getting all the preservatives or the,
right,
you know, things that you don't know what those are.
And it
label.
really is easy to eat a gluten-free diet or a dairy-free diet. You know, gluten-free, there are a lot of foods that are just naturally gluten-free. So I eat really good food.
You're aware, and it's made such a difference for
it
you
has,
too.
A huge
well, and
difference.
even some of the foods that we were talking about, chips and salsa things, even like chips, you can get gluten-free things now.
Right.
So
there are a lot of great options for people out there if you do have a food intolerance, whether it's gluten or dairy or soy or whatever.
Sure.
A lot of really great options for you out there now.
Well, and Kris Vaughan, certified clinical herbalist and integrative nutrition coach, we have information on the screen where people can get a hold of you if they're experiencing some really odd health problems, and maybe you can figure out what it is for them.
That's right.
And get them healthy. We all want to be healthy and happy.
That's right.
Kris Vaughan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.